Yes.
Okay, let's. Yeah.
But as consciousness deepens, he becomes aware that this is only a first frontal appearance, for he finds that it is by the silent support, permission, or sanction of this witness soul that this executive nature can work intimately or persistently on his behalf. If the soul withdraws its sanction, the movements of nature in their action upon and within him become a wholly mechanical repetition, vehement at first, as if seeking still to enforce their hold, but afterwards less and less dynamic and real. More actively using this power of sanction or refusal, he perceives that he can slowly and uncertainly at first, more decisively afterwards, change the movements of nature. Eventually, in this witness soul or behind it, is revealed to him the presence of a knower and master will in nature, and all her activities more and more appear as an expression of what is known and either actively willed or passively permitted by this Lord of our existence. Prakriti herself now seems to be mechanical only in the carefully regulated appearance of her workings, but in fact a conscious force with a soul within her, a self aware existence in her turn, a revelation of a secret will and knowledge in her steps and spirit. This duality in aspect separate is inseparable. Wherever there is Prakriti, there is Purusha. Wherever there is Purusha, there is Prakriti. Even in his inactivity, he holds in himself all her force and energies ready for projection. Even in the drive of her action, she carries with her all his observing and mandatory consciousness as the whole support and sense of a creative purpose. Once more, the seeker discovers in his experience the two poles of existence of one being and the two lines of currents of their energy, negative and positive, in relation to each other, which effect by the simultaneity the manifestation of all that is within it. Here too he finds that separate as great, for it releases him from the bondage of identification with the inadequate workings of nature and the eternal. The unitive aspect of dynamic, the unitive aspect is dynamic and effective, for it enables him to arrive at mastery and perfection. But rejecting what is less divine or seemingly undivine in her, he can rebuild her forms and movements in himself according to a nobler pattern and the law and rhythm of a greater existence. At a certain spiritual and fundamental level, the duality becomes still more perfectly two in one, the master soul with the conscious force within it, and its potentiality disowns all barriers and breaks through every limit. Thus, this once separate, now biune duality of Purusha Prakriti is revealed to him in all its truth as the second great instrumental and effective aspect of the soul of all souls, the master of
The sacrifice, the Lord of the sacrifice. Okay, so Para, and now he is saying something very interesting. See, when you make your mind silent and you go to the second level, what we call the second level, the spiritual planes of consciousness, you are not located in your body mind anymore. But at that time, there is an experience normally which you get, that is, you feel that you are outside the universe and you have nothing to do with the universe. You are in the transcendental consciousness. Okay, you can experience the transcendental consciousness even in the second level. Okay, that's the interesting part. But if you are lucky, you can get also the cosmic consciousness, and then you don't reject the body as false. Body, mind, life as false, nor do you reject the universe as false. So Srimna is giving here that in the spiritual planes of consciousness itself, as your consciousness goes on rising from higher mind to illumined mind to intuitive mind to our mind, the view goes on changing. The view, the relation between Purusha and Prakriti. And now Purusha and Prakriti should not be anymore a vague concept. It should be very, very clear. You can also see, I'll give you all the equivalents, and then you will see that it can be quite clear in your mind, the above and the lower. Okay, so Purusha is consciousness. If it is consciousness, then Prakriti is Shakti. Okay, at the highest level, they are divine Shakti and divine consciousness. But as they go on coming down, at the highest level they are one in the supramental. But as they come down, the law of the one becoming the many starts operating. So they separate. And at every stage, there is a different view of Purusha and Prakriti, their relation. That's what he's explaining in this para. Okay. So first you see them as totally separate, and they do seem to have nothing to do with each other. You are in a consciousness of stability, infinite, okay, absolutely real, stable, immutable, without features, and you see the physical world moving with all the forms and the movement. You totally separate. This is Srimda's experience also in Baroda. But then, as the consciousness goes on increasing and growing, that's what he has started the paragraph with that line. Okay? As the consciousness deepens and becomes aware. When does it become deep? Deep normally suggests down. Okay, but actually your consciousness goes up and your view deepens. You can look down more clearly. Okay, when you go up, it's very interesting. I remember I had a dream once when I'm looking up, but I'm seeing that as I'm looking up, I'm looking down also. So they are really the same. So Surendra's word deepens is very interesting. You don't go down, you go up, and the more you go up, the more your sight deepens and goes down also. So the range goes on increasing. As you go higher up, the lower becomes clearer and clearer. Okay, it's like that. Okay, very interesting. So he's saying that first you can experience the separateness of Purusha and Prakriti. They seem to have nothing to do with each other. Opposites there. But as the consciousness deepens, this view goes on changing. Then you see that no, there is a relationship, after all, it is you yourself who have given permission to your body, mind, life to do something. Why? You are allowing it to do everything in the physical world because you need experience. You have to gather experience to grow. So that is what you have done. So you are the permission giver. Then as you keep going higher and higher, you see that you are also actually supporting the your body, mind, life. So then it becomes the bharta. Then you start even enjoying what it has done. Bhokta. This is in the Gita very clearly, all these terms are there. Srimda is following that. Because if you remember, when he was in jail, Sri Krishna came and told him how to understand the Gita. So actually Sri Krishna himself has told Sri Aurobindo how to understand the Gita. So he follows the Gita method. Yeah. So as you keep going on, then you see that you can be sometimes in the consciousness of the witness, and you can also be the consciousness of the force. And then a time comes when either you are here or you are there. And when you are there, you can also feel part of you inside in the lower. And in the lower also when you are there, you can see the higher. Then a time comes when you are in both together. So all these experiences, he's saying, I don't think any other philosophy has with such clarity given all these variations. It is Sri Aurobindo who does that. So others make a philosophy out of their one experience. Sankhya, Purusha and Prakriti may be together, but they are totally separate. Okay. Then there are others also who say that no, they can be together. All sorts of different philosophies are there. Okay. Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, and Bheda Bheda. Then there is also the Dvaita, the difference. The Dvaita philosophy, Madhvacharya and others also, Nimbarka, I think, they all say that no, you can have a relation to the divine, but you can't become the divine. The unity of experience. But Srimad is clearly saying there is a separative experience and there is a unity of experience. So those words will come across now. So with this background, we start reading the para. I'll read each sentence. Tell me whether it is clear. So now he has gone beyond the first experience of total separateness. But as the consciousness deepens, now deepens means your consciousness is going higher up and understanding more and more. He becomes aware that this is only a first frontal appearance. Which is the first frontal appearance? Separateness. Purusha and Prakriti are separate. Consciousness is different and force is different. This is the frontal appearance only. It is not absolutely true. That's what it is. For he finds that it is by the silent support, permission, and sanction of this witness soul in him that this executive nature, Shakti, force, can work intimately or persistently upon his being. He sees that it is the witness himself who is permitting the things to do. In other words, if you want a practical thing, the first experience, you come to the self and you see that the body is going on acting in the old way. Suppose you had a, I'm using our examples, not certain those examples. Suppose we are irritable, or we are angry, okay, or we are greedy, okay, all these things. I am only giving the negative ones, but even the positive ones also are also in the same way. Okay, you have to think of it in that way, neutral, not only bad. So you see that the body mind life is going on, its greed is continuing, its anger is continuing, but you are not angry anymore and you wonder why the hell is my body mind life doing all this. Then you realize that, oh, I myself have given permission. Why? Because I have to gather experience. I have to know what is right and wrong. And I can't know what is right unless I know the wrong. This is very interesting because you have to experience the wrong to know that it is wrong. Otherwise, how will you know? So in the beginning, we are imperfect because of that. Okay, so then you realize that you yourself have given the permission. Then that permission can become active or passive. You realize first that it is passive. Oh, I only have allowed it to do that. Then you realize that if you have allowed it to do that, then I can withdraw the permission also. Why should I let my body, mind, life get angry and greedy? So I can control it. And then you see that yes, I have a little bit of control. Okay. So these are all the things that he is describing. Then at the last level, you can have full control when you go right up to the highest level of the supermind. This is what Sridhar is describing. So we'll start reading now. I'm reading each sentence and you will see what he is saying. With his background, you should be able to understand clearly. But as the consciousness deepens, he becomes aware that this is only a frontal appearance. First frontal appearance. He has used two words, first and frontal. It's only superficial. For he finds that it is by the silent support, passive, okay, not active, permission or sanction of this witness soul in him, that this executive nature, your body, mind, life is executive nature, can work intimately or persistently upon his being. So you have the power to do something even in your body, mind, life. If the soul withdraws its sanction, the movements of nature in their action upon and within him become a wholly mechanical repetition. Repetition. Anger will go on, irritability will go on, greed will go on, mechanical. It goes on by itself, okay, like a machine. Okay. In fact, the body, mind, life is a machine. Okay. We have to realize that. Even the mind is a machine. Huh? We all know that the body is a machine. The kidneys work perfectly, the stomach works perfectly, the liver works perfectly, the heart works perfectly, but without mechanically it goes on. But even the vital is a machine and the mind also is a machine. Remember that, okay? Don't think that your mind is free. It has no free will. Okay, so it's very interesting because you can actually make a robot nowadays and it has a body and a vital and a mind. So which is the body of the robot? The metallic structure or the plastic structure is the body. What about the vital? The vital is the battery that gives power to it. And what is the mind? Nothing but a computer which has been programmed. So this you are able to reproduce the lower man, but you can't reproduce the higher man. You can't put a soul into a robot. Okay. So this is your body, mind, life is absolutely a machine. And you realize that when you come up. Oh my God, my body, mind, life is working like a machine and I am doing nothing about it. Then you realize that no, I can do something about it. Then you realize that if I can do something about it, I can also change things. So you start putting the force now, you have permission, you withdraw the permission and you put another permission. Change your anger, change your greed. You do that, then slowly nature starts obeying. Okay, but this obeying is not instantaneous. It is like I give you the impression, the image of the scooter. I am riding on a scooter and 50 meters before I have to stop my destination, I switch off the engine to save petrol. Okay, but will the scooter stop immediately? No, because the energy that you have given it in the past will keep it going until it comes to a stop. Exactly in the same way, your body mind life also will go on exhibiting greed and irritability, but slowly decreasing until finally the irritability completely disappears and the greed also completely disappears. Okay? So this is what Shanti is saying. Exit, positive and negative. So silent support, passive. Permission or sanction of this witness soul in him, the executive nature can work intimately and persistently upon it. If the soul withdraws its sanction, the movements of nature in their action upon and within him, okay, movements of nature upon him and within him. Upon him, the body. Within him, your vital and your mind, within you, become a wholly mechanical repetition, vehement at first, exactly as strong as it was before, as if seeking still to enforce its field. Okay? Nobody wants to listen. If a parent is scolding his son, and if a father is scolding his son and saying you must change, there will be a revolt. So that's exactly what the body mind life also does. Any pressure you put on somebody, there will be a revolt. So you, even in bringing up children, okay, it's the same principle. You should never scold a child to change him. You have to, with love, explain to him. Then he is likely to listen to you, otherwise he won't. So exactly in the same way, your body mind life also, you have to put a pressure, but a very understanding pressure, slowly, so that there is no reaction in the body mind life. And Sri says the reaction in the body mind life will differ with the nature of the vital. If the vital is very strong, it will revolt. That's what he says. When he explains Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, he explains this. If you put too much pressure, there'll be a revolt. The bottle is very strong. They've got very interesting examples in the ashram. Okay, Pranabda used to actually revolt like that, and one day he walked out, and mother was wondering where he has gone, where he should be here. So she said, Pavitra are looking for him. Okay, and he had walked long, far away. Then he was brought back. Okay, there can be this type of revolt, but there can also be a, if the vital is very weak, okay, it won't revolt, it will go into depression. So depression comes when you put a pressure. Oh, I don't want to listen to you, but I can't do anything about it. So I'll stop doing what I'm doing, you go into a depression. So the reaction can be both vehemence or depression. Okay. Vehemence at first as if seeking still to enforce its hold, but afterwards less and less dynamic and real. More actively, that means you are now putting more pressure using this power of sanction or refusal. Right? Sanction and refusal are negative and positive things of the same, of force. Force can be allowing something and it need not allow something also. He perceives that he can, slowly and uncertainly at first, more decisively afterwards, change the movements of nature. You can change your irritability, you can change your greed, you can change your selfishness, everything you can change. But it takes time, not immediate. Eventually, in this witness soul and behind it is revealed the presence of a knower and a master will in nature. So the knower is the Jnata. He is following the Gita as I told you. First of all, Sakshi, then Bharta, the support, then the Jnata, you so know things, you start understanding things. Then you become the Bhokta, you start even enjoying what nature is doing for you. You realize that nature is doing it for your pleasure. And then finally you become Master, Ishwar. So this is the gradation that is talking about in this paragraph. Okay? And all her activities more and more uh, appear as an expression of what is known. Okay, now because you have got the knowledge, you are a jnata, and that either actively willed or passively permitted by this Lord of our existence. Okay. This is very interesting. Lord passively and actively. It can be both. I'll give you a very interesting example of how Sri Aurobindo also used this active and passive. I'll tell you, it's a different subject altogether, but it's worth. Okay, Barin was Sri Aurobindo's younger brother, and he wanted to fight the British by violence. And he said, whenever there is an injustice done, I will kill that British person. Okay, so and Sri Aurobindo said that what will you achieve by that? Then he said, no, 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 I want to do it. So Sri Aurobindo passively agreed. Okay, he didn't give his active agreement. He gave passively. And in the evening talks, when he was asked, why did you permit Barin to do that? Because Barin did a few things like that. They threw a bomb at an English carriage. So Sri Aurobindo said, when certain forces are released, it is not always wise to interfere by the individual, because these forces are universal and they can also produce something good. Okay, so this is what he said. It's not always good to interfere, particularly when you are not fully knowledgeable. If you are fully knowledgeable in the supermind, yes, you can either say no or yes. But when you are not sure and you are in the lower, you don't know. In synthesis, in one place, you remember he says that good comes out of evil and evil comes out of good. They are interchangeable because in the field of the dualities, they are absolutely together. So you never know what you consider bad or good is not really so. It's a mixture. Okay. So here also we have passive permission and active permission. Now I go to the next sentence. Prakriti herself now seems to be mechanical only in the carefully regulated appearance of her workings, but in fact a conscious force with a soul within her, a self-aware significance in her turns, a revelation of a secret will and knowledge in her steps and figures. You start seeing. Mentally also we can understand this very easily, but you actually start seeing it when you are in the spiritual consciousness. Mentally we can see what Sri Aurobindo is saying, because take the case of instinct animals. They are ignorant and yet they do the right thing. There are so many examples. No? They have given, even in plants it is like that. Okay, a plant needs light and water and it seeks it. Okay, it seeks it with great vigor. It does that. The roots go and know exactly where to find water. The branches above start growing upwards towards the light. And in animals also, instincts are always there. They know exactly what to do. A newborn baby knows exactly that it has to suckle. Okay, so it finds the teat of the animal and goes on suckling. So how is that possible? Because there is a consciousness behind guiding them. This behind guiding them also, I have another image. Okay, suppose you are an actor on the stage. Okay, an actor can always forget his lines. No? So in the wings, which the audience does not see, there is a prompter. Okay, and he makes sure that the actor is saying the right lines. As soon as the actor starts hesitating, the prompter gives the next line or the next word. So he remembers and goes on unfalteringly. So this is an interesting image of a presence behind guiding you. Okay, so you can't. There's no mistake in the animal world or the plant world. They are guided by a presence behind, although they themselves are ignorant of what they are doing. Okay, so that's what Simla is saying here. See what he's saying? In fact, a conscious force with a soul within her, a self-aware significance in her turn, a revelation of a secret will and knowledge in her steps and figures. Everything is done absolutely in the correct way. This duality, in aspects separate, is inseparable. Purusha and Prakriti are always together, even when they are opposites. They are together. Wherever there is Purusha, there will be Prakriti. That's what he's saying next. Wherever there is Prakriti, there is a Purusha. Wherever there is Purusha, there is a Prakriti. But you don't necessarily see it. And you are seeing, at our level, we are seeing only the Prakriti. We are not seeing Purusha at all. If you go to the second level, the spiritual planes of consciousness, the Purusha becomes more apparent and the Prakriti seems to be there below. You are seeing, and it even seems to be an image, an illusion. Okay. But as you keep going higher and higher, you see that they are both real and they have a connection also between them. Now, I go to the next sentence. Even in his inactivity, when is the inactivity? In the spiritual planes of consciousness. There is inactivity. He is only a witness. Inactivity is witness. He holds in himself all her force and energies ready for projection. This also is, he may not be acting, but he has got all the force and he is ready for action. Just like an athlete who is on his marks, running the 100 meters, he is absolutely stable and concentrated. He is not moving. But the moment the gun shoots off and says, on your mark, get set, go, he starts running. Why? Because he has got the force, he is holding it back. So that's exactly what Sridhar is saying here, in the same way. Okay? Even in his inactivity, he holds in himself all her force and energies ready for projection. Even in the drive of her action, she carries with her all his observing and mandatory consciousness as a whole support and sense of her creative purpose. Nature is creative and she is going on creating things. Even now, nature is going on creating things. Slowly, slowly she is creating new species in plants, in animals. Okay, they're going on, new species are going on being born. But we don't see the process because the process takes 100 years, 200 years, maybe even more. So we don't see it. That's the thing. Just like a flower, if you wait on a flower for 2 hours and you want to see it bloom, you will not see the process. But if you do what is called time-lapse photography, you will see how the flower blooms in 5 minutes or even in some seconds, because you have done time-lapse photography. So some things we don't see. Nature's creativity we don't see. But it can be seen if you go to a higher level of consciousness, you see that nature is constantly creating. Okay. Then, even in his activity, he holds in that way. Okay. So, creative purpose. Once more, the seeker discovers in his experience the two poles of existence. What are these two poles of existence? Purusha, Prakriti. Or if you want, consciousness and force. Chit and Shakti. Spirit and matter. Or you can also say stability and movement. Okay. Or you can also say one and the many. All these are equivalent terms. They're all. So this will help to understand it. Higher and the lower also I can use in a certain sense. But they are always together. Even in the lowest there is the highest. And even in the highest, the potentiality of the lowest is there. Okay. But in different proportions. Now, here too he finds that the separative aspect is liberative. Okay, this is a very interesting sentence, we'll understand this. For it releases him from the bondage of identification with the inadequate workings of nature in the ignorance. So, let's look at that sentence clearly. The separative aspect is what? You are not identified with your body, mind, life anymore. So that is liberated. You are free from the imprisonment in the body, mind, life. This is liberating. But you are seeing yourself separate from it. For it releases him from the bondage of identification with the inadequate workings of nature in the ignorance. The inadequate workings of nature in the ignorance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words, meaning only body, mind, life. Okay? You are not identified with your body, mind, life anymore because they are inadequate workings of what? Of nature. Nature with an end cap. So in other words, your body, mind, life are only imperfect workings of universal nature. Nature with an end cap, remember. So it is universal. Okay? So this is what Sridhar is saying. Now he's talking about the unitive aspect. Unitive aspect is dynamic and effective. What does it mean? Unitive aspect means now you see that, oh, Purusha and Prakriti are not separate, they are together. Okay? Then in that case, your consciousness is fully capable of acting on the body, mind, life. Now it is dynamic and effective also. In other words, when you are in a consciousness where they are together, you can use your power to change things. That's why it is dynamic and effective. But in the other one, it is passive and liberative. Okay? So all these things are possible in the spiritual planes of consciousness. The unitive aspect is dynamic and effective, for it enables him to arrive at mastery and perfection. Okay? You can become master of yourself. While rejecting what is less divine or seemingly undivine in her, he can rebuild her form and movements in himself according to a nobler pattern and the law and rhythm of a greater existence. Now that's very interesting. Look at the words carefully. He is saying less divine or seemingly undivine. In other words, in Life Divine, we have the chapter, the divine and the undivine. It is not that the divine is there only in heaven and the undivine is there below. It's not like that. Even the below is also the divine, but in a less divine aspect. There is the one becoming the many, the darkness going up becomes light. The light coming down becomes darkness. So even the darkness is an aspect of the divine. So as you keep going up, you go more and more towards divinity. As you keep coming down, you go more and more towards non-divinity. Okay? But everything is divine. That's what he's saying. Less divine or seemingly undivine. But this philosophy is restricted only to Advaita. Okay. Most of the other philosophies only see separation. Purusha and Prakriti are separate, spirit and matter are separate. But Advaita philosophy says there is only essentially one. There is a difference, but at the lower levels you see the difference. But if you go to the highest level, you will see that essentially all are the same. Okay. That's what he said. Then we go to the next. And when you see that, you can build in yourself a more perfect nature. That's what he's saying. He can rebuild her forms. What are the forms? Your habits and your movements. You can rebuild them. Not only forms and movements, but even the body can be changed. Just imagine what happened to Sri Aurobindo, na? He was a dark person, but his body started becoming absolutely golden color afterwards. There's a famous story in Puraniji. Na? Puraniji came in 1920, okay, and to see Sri Aurobindo. Why? He wanted to make bombs for India's liberation. Sri Aurobindo told him that there is no need to do that. The British will leave of themselves. You come and do yoga. So he went back. And when he went back, after 2 years he came, and in the 2 years, his body had become absolutely golden color. So, and he himself had grown a beard. Okay. So when he saw Sri Aurobindo, he said, "Sir, what has happened to you? You have become absolutely fair." So Sri Aurobindo said, "What has happened to you?" Because he had made a beard. So that's a funny story. So,
I couldn't hear you what Sri Aurobindo's part was.
Pardon?
We couldn't hear you. We couldn't
Okay,
hear
okay.
the Sri Aurobindo's part. What Sri Aurobindo told to Purani ji
Yeah.
when he came for the asking for the bomb.
Yeah, yeah. So he had grown a beard. Praniji had grown a beard in that 2 years. So when he came to Sri Aurobindo and told him, "What has happened to you?" Sri Aurobindo replied, "Again, always it is the same thing. I'll give you several examples of that and you will see." Okay. Sri Aurobindo is
No,
to
not.
answer. Yeah. Sri Aurobindo is to let me finish the story, then you ask me. Okay. So Sri Aurobindo told him, "And what has happened to you?" Because he had grown that beard. Okay. So I'll tell you how Sri Aurobindo used to always counter with the same argument. Okay? I'll tell you 2, 3 examples. One, when he was a small child, okay, he was, I think, 3 or 4 years old, and his mama, okay, his maternal uncle, okay, was teasing him, okay, and he brought a mirror and showed it to Sri Aurobindo, and he says, he showed the mirror to Sri Aurobindo and said, pointed to Sri Aurobindo and said, "Choto oro, choto bador," and he pointed to the image in the mirror. Okay. So that little boy, 4-year-old, what does he do? You understand, na? He is teasing him. Mama is teasing him and saying, "You are a little bador. Look in your image yourself." And Sri Aurobindo at that age, he took the mirror and pointed it to his mama. And he said, "Bodo mama, bodo bador." Bador means monkey. So at that age, he has got that sense of humor and he is replying. Okay. In the same way, Sri Aurobindo was always, this was his way of answering. When Gandhi's son came to Sri Aurobindo, also in the, I think in the 20s or somewhere, he asked Sri Aurobindo, he was seeing Sri Aurobindo is smoking. Okay? Before mother came, he used to smoke. Okay? That because he picked up the habit from England. So Gandhi's son asked him, why are you attached to smoking? And you know what was Srinivas's answer? I think you know about it, no? Why are you attached to non-smoking? The problem is not smoking or non-smoking. The problem is the attachment. Okay, it's a very interesting truth. Okay, when you are, it's the attachment that's the problem. If that problem is solved, then it doesn't matter what happens. So that is spiritually speaking, that's the problem, attachment. So I gave you 3-4 examples of how you used to react. Okay. I go back to the text.
So, Gangada,
Yeah,
see, when Purani ji came first to ask for the how to make the bomb, at that time, how Sri Aurobindo denied him, that answer I wanted. That was not clear because of some sound problem.
Okay. So Srinivas told him that you need not spend any energy trying to liberate your country because that is all decided already. This was in 1920. Okay. And he told Puranaji that you don't need to do anything, the British will go away by themselves. Okay. They will be forced to leave and they will go away by themselves. But then Puranaji had a little doubt and he asked him, but how can you say that? How can you say, when will they go? How will they go? Can you give me a guarantee that they will go? The Srinivas told him, if I tell you that they will go away, will you believe me? So Puranaji said, yes, if you tell me and give me the guarantee, I will believe. So Srinivas suddenly became, and this is there in Puranaji's book. Okay, he said Srinivas suddenly looked very serious and looked up and raised and looked through the window and looked up, and he put his fist on the table like that, and he said, "As sure as the rising of tomorrow's sun, the British will leave India." Okay.